So, learning Spanish has literally changed my life. And so, I want to give you some reasons why, if you're considering or if you're learning right now, why you should stick with it and learn Spanish because it really has opened up so many opportunities for me. So, I'm going to give you 10 reasons why you should learn Spanish. Just to give you a little bit of background, I would say I'm completely fluent in Spanish. Si quieres pruebas, pues aquí lo tengo. Yo puedo hablar y la mayoría del tiempo puedo entender casi todo y la gente casi siempre me entienden. Obviamente cometo errores como todos, pero lo importante es que se puede entender. Just to give you a little bit of my background and like why I learned Spanish, how I learned Spanish, I studied French in college and I really was only studying French because I wanted to travel. I didn't actually care about the French that much. I didn't really like French. I still don't really love it. The pronunciation is very difficult, and I'm technically fluent in French, but my French is bad. Besides the point. I started working probably halfway through college at a restaurant, a Mexican restaurant, and it was a really fun job. I was, for the first time, making okay money, made a bunch of friends. I was one of two white girls that worked at the restaurant. Everybody else was Mexican, Guatemalan, Puerto Rican. Like there were people from different places, but they all spoke Spanish as their first language. And so it was me and one other girl who our first language was English. Because of that, most of the time, everybody talked to each other in Spanish. And that's really what made me want to learn because I wanted to be included. I was around this group of people every day who spoke to each other in Spanish and I felt left out. I never knew what they were talking about. And it was also just practical because if I needed to get an order out quickly and I needed a change, there was only one guy in the kitchen who spoke some English and the rest of them spoke none at all. So I started learning little phrases like dame un plato aparte de frijoles y arroz. Oh, small stuff, or I would just learn like words like arroz y frijoles, whatever, simple stuff. And that just sort of built over time and I really had fun with it. And I wouldn't say that I'm like have a special talent for learning languages or anything, but I do think I learned faster than most people. And I would say that I'm more fluent than the average person who learns Spanish. And I think that's because really when I started learning Spanish, I was very committed. And honestly, I still am. Learning a language is like a lifestyle habit, or it should be. It's like when you start the gym, you have to change your diet, you have to change a lot of things. Learning a language is the same. I listen to all my music in Spanish, or almost all. No, I didn't listen to all of it. I listened to a lot of music in Spanish. I watched all of my series in Spanish with English subtitles. And then when I got good enough, I watched it in Spanish with Spanish subtitles. So besides TV and music, I just put in effort every day at the restaurant to try to learn new words, new phrases. And it was just little stuff, honestly. Like maybe I'm learning, one or two phrases every day, but I tried to use it so that it stuck in my brain. Besides that, I also would go out of my way to study in my free time. I was on Duolingo. I did Duolingo for years. I actually just quit Duolingo recently because I feel like I've sort of reached that point to where there's like not much left for me to learn on Duolingo. I always think that there's more to learn, but Duolingo, in my opinion, can only take you so far. Besides Duolingo, I was also I think I made myself a list on Quizlet, which if you don't know what Quizlet is, it's like basically a digital flashcards application to study. It's just an app to study. It's something I used in college, but I made myself a bunch of flashcards of kitchen terminology. So I remember like I learned horno, which means oven, sartén, which means pan, stuff like that I didn't learn just from speaking, but I wanted to know how to say it. So that's how I learned. And I really had a ton of fun learning. And I still to this day, like all the people I worked with were really fun. I go back and visit them anytime I'm in town. So let me tell you the reasons I think you should learn Spanish and why it can change your life. Number one is you unlock an entire group of people that you would not be able to meet or get to know if you didn't speak this language. I don't know what I know English is like probably the number one language you want to learn because it's just kind of global. Pretty much anywhere you go, people speak English, especially if it's a touristy place. But in my opinion, Spanish would be number two, at least because I'm an American. Like it's at least within America, it's the second most spoken language. There's a ton of Hispanics here. There's a lot of people who speak Spanish. And I think you just don't realize all the times it's necessary until you have it. Like, probably you run across a lot of people in your everyday life who speak Spanish and you're only able to very minimally communicate with them. But it's super useful even if you never were to leave the United States. Okay, number 2, Spanish. Knowing Spanish can completely change your life just in the US. What I mean by that is there's plenty of places you can go where Spanish is spoken. Restaurants, grocery stores, there's a lot of different places. And you know what? The majority of Hispanic shops are cheaper. Like, if you want to get your tires changed, if you go to a Hispanic tire shop, like, I don't know why, but it just is. There's also, I feel like Hispanic culture is growing in the US. Like, there's lots of concerts and events, and in my opinion, Hispanic culture is just fun. Like, they have like bailes and stuff like that I don't think you would be able to enjoy as much if you're not fluent. Of course you can go and have fun, but it's a lot more fun when you can understand what people are talking about. Traveling becomes a completely different experience when you're fluent. I think you could do a trip to Latin America and have a ton of fun speaking no Spanish. In fact, I know you could. I have friends who've done it. But you really get a much more intimate travel experience when you're fluent in Spanish. In 2024, I did a 5-month trip. I was in Mexico for 2 months and Colombia for 3 months. And I talked to so many locals. Every single taxi I took, I talked to the driver. I got all of my restaurant recommendations from people who actually lived in the places I was visiting. Usually I would ask my driver, like, hey, where's your favorite restaurant to go for an evening, dinner with a nice view or something like that, And I think you really get to know a country in a different way when you're talking to the people who live there. Of course, they know all the spots that aren't on Google, A lot of my favorite places that I've been were places that were recommended by a local, not the places I see with the 5-star reviews on Google. In my opinion, that's just not the best way to travel. I would rather get to know somebody who actually lives there and knows the area, knows the country, Okay, number 4, you get access to a whole nother culture without needing somebody to translate it for you. So Bad Bunny, he's huge right now. He's my number 1. But there's also, like, I'm sure you've run across videos on TikTok or, there's just like stuff that you come across. There's even movies and TV shows that are like Casa de Papel, which I think in English is called like bank heist, money heist. It's different. Like, when you can watch it in Spanish, it's different than watching the translation because it's really just, it doesn't hit the same. Same thing with like Bad Bunny or any artist in Spanish. You can listen to Bad Bunny and enjoy his music even if you understand nothing. But when you understand the lyrics, it's a whole other experience. And obviously you can translate it, but it really just doesn't hit the same as when you're listening to it and you know what's being said. Number 5, it makes you way more confident talking to strangers. I would say I've always been pretty confident. I've worked a lot of customer service jobs where my job was to talk to people in hospitality, working as a server, stuff like that. But whenever you know 2 languages, or whenever you're learning a second language, it really forces you to get comfortable being uncomfortable, because it really is very difficult to, whenever you're first starting out, you just have to get comfortable sounding stupid and saying dumb stuff because you don't know what you're talking about and you make a lot of mistakes, but you learn from it, you get over it, and it really does make you more confident because you're just like, whatever, you get over it. You're like, I don't care. At some point, I don't care. Number 6, you realize how much personality can be lost in translation. I think you can be friends with somebody who doesn't speak the same language as you. I've seen it happen. My brother actually became really good friends with my friend who's Mexican, and my friend speaks no English. David at the time spoke no Spanish. And I don't know, they just like get each other somehow. They're like vibes match. But they can't say anything to each other. But I do think there's a lot of stuff that, like, jokes are very hard to translate. So, and obviously whenever you translate a joke, it really just doesn't, it's not as funny, after you explain a joke. So I feel like you do lose a lot of people's personality when you have to translate everything that they're saying. It's very hard. You can feel somebody's vibe, but like their whole personality does not come across whenever you're having to translate everything that's said. So, like, using the Bad Bunny example again, he does interviews in English, but I don't really think you are getting the full experience of what his personality is like because he can just express himself so much better in Spanish, obviously. Number 7, the one that everybody cares about, money, career. You definitely have a lot more career opportunities. You can work. I mean, it literally just opens the world up for you to do something that's fully in Spanish, fully in English, but there's a lot of places hiring now that want somebody to be bilingual, and your earning potential just goes up. I mean, I worked at the restaurant, but then I also have had other jobs that only hired me because they wanted somebody bilingual. And you have to be fluent, obviously, because they want you to be able to take phone calls and, meet with clients in person and be able to talk comfortably in English or Spanish. So that's definitely a plus. And I will say this is like kind of niche, but if you're doing content creation, if you can speak more than one language, it literally doubles your possible audience. So like me, I do TikTok, now YouTube, but I can make videos in English and Spanish. So I have all of the people who speak English, all of the people who speak Spanish who could possibly watch my videos. Number 8, learning a second language literally changes your brain. Like there's certain things in English that don't exist in Spanish and vice versa. So I think it really just opens your mind up to be able to think differently, and I think the way you express yourself changes. But at some point, whenever you get good enough, you stop translating. When you first start learning, you're thinking, oh, you're translating it through the filter of your first language. So you're thinking English to Spanish, I have to translate in my head. But once you get good enough, it's just automatic. Like you just understand the language. And I think it really does change how you think. I want to give an example. I know a lot of times for me, whenever I don't know how to say something in Spanish, I will sort of talk in a circle to get my point across. But I think it's just kind of like you're doing mental gymnastics all the time, but I think it really does keep you on your feet in a brain way. Okay, this is the first example that comes to mind. So in Spanish, there are 2 different verbs to say I love you. In English, I love you is something you would say to a romantic partner, your friends, your family, anybody who's close to you that you love. But in Spanish, there's te amo and te quiero. Te amo is generally used for romantic partners and it's seen as like much stronger. Te quiero is something that you could say to a romantic partner too. But you could say that pretty early on. Like when you are really into somebody, you could say te quiero. Quiero is also used for friends, but te amo is kind of reserved for family and then like a really strong love. But we don't really have any way to differentiate that in English. And I think we generally just would wait longer to say I love you, There's not really a step in between in English. So that's just one example, but I think it really does shape the way you're able to think about things. And number 9, dating. So if you're dating, learning Spanish quite literally doubles your dating pool. So that's a plus. My boyfriend is from El Salvador, so it's definitely, if it could help me, it could help you. Okay, and then number 10, the biggest one, it can change the whole trajectory of your life. When I started learning Spanish, I had no idea where it would lead me to, but it quite literally has changed my career. I started doing social media, and that's where I really started seeing traction, was because I speak Spanish. The person I fell in love with, when I met him, only spoke Spanish. A lot of my very close friends only speak Spanish. I was able to do almost 6 months in South America alone because I speak Spanish. Like there's been so many good things in my life because of just this one decision. And I only think that's going to continue in the future. And I really would recommend it to anybody. Like even if you don't want to dedicate as much time as I did, I think even having a basic knowledge is super helpful. I think it really is helpful. It's helpful to know Spanish. It's a great thing to add to your life. It's a great skill. I would recommend it to anybody. So thank you for watching. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, and let me know what you would like to see in any future videos if you have specific questions about how to learn Spanish or anything like that. Okay, bye.